Hello and welcome back to RailRoads Online. So today we are here doing another train review. We are on our way to Tier 2. Today joined by a group of the fellas. We got, hey fellas.
What's
Hello.
up?
Yeah,
Gizmo
everybody's in
here.
the train. We got Gizmo, Zach, and Swifty all on board to drive trains and give opinions as to locomotives. So with that, we're just going to kick it off and get going. I think Eureka is our first in the locomotive parade today. So we'll bring that one forward. Eureka's like one of the original OG locomotives, so we do have to keep that in mind when we are looking at it. Alright, so let's just kick it off, right? Looks is
Yeah.
going to be our first category for Eureka. I don't know about anybody else, but this one's a solid 5 for me.
Yeah. I
Old,
mean, the way
old
the metal
model or not.
shines is gorgeous.
Yeah. Eureka, I mean, OG locomotive, but this thing is truly held up to the, to the test of time as far as I'm concerned. I still think it's one of the best looking locomotives in the game. One could argue it's the best looking locomotive in the game and always has been. So,
Yeah,
5 there. All
I
right.
give it a solid 7. I mean 5. But yeah, I think the biggest thing with Eureka is when they redid the textures on the loco along with the light. I think it has one of the most realistic lights on it.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
accurate. I mean, Eureka not 100% historically accurate. Obviously, we've all seen the inside of Eureka, so definitely different, but it holds up, right? I mean, I think so anyway.
Yeah.
So sweet, Eureka gets a 5. All right, how about sound? It's kind of, here's my take on it, right? It's middle of the road when it comes to sound. Eureka's like the standard old sound that they pretty much all shared, so I give it a 3.
I'd
Yeah,
I'd agree with that honestly, yeah.
Right? Nothing.
give or take.
Yeah,
I
I
would
mean,
have
you
to
could
say
go 4,
4.
you could go 2. I think 3 is probably fair, just a middle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Doesn't
know?
have a special whistle or anything. It's just got the generic whistle and bell.
Right. It'd be nice if it had a little something, a little different chuff puff. I don't know, something. But there's nothing really
Yeah.
unique there. So, all right. Then we get to the
Uh,
interesting. What's up?
I would have to say the whistle on the Eureka is pretty similar to the real one, seeing it in
That's
real life from
that's
my
true,
perspective.
and you would know there. So that's true. I mean, it's very historically accurate. I think for what they can do, you know, in the game.
Yeah.
Agree.
All right. Then we get to use. Hoo hoo hoo. That's another. See, for me, Eureka's the middle of the road, right? It's a 3. It's great for flat ground. Doesn't do squat for hills, But on
I
the flat ground, it's pretty much all you'd ever need.
yeah. I've actually pulled like maybe 8 to 10 car trains with a caboose. And I mean I've gone up just maybe a little bit of a hill, but or like a 2.5 or 2% for just a short time. And it,
Right.
it slowly makes its way. It's just taking its time, but it can do it, just
Right.
not for extended periods of time. But if you're just going over a little hill, like to get over a little hill by the sun or something, it works great.
Yeah,
Or
pulling power 5,620 is not too bad for what it is.
yeah, especially
Yeah.
at where you get it in the game. That's
And
I
this is even supposed to be a passenger loco, so it
right.
pulling freight cars the way it does is pretty impressive.
Right. All right. How about cost?
Yeah, 2,900 base price.
Yeah, so for
I,
me, Eureka's, I mean, probably for value, it's a 4.
Yeah,
I mean, I would think it's fair. I mean, I could almost see giving it a 3 again because it's middle of the road, but then realistically, it's got a pretty good value when you consider its look. And I mean, it's going
yeah.
to do almost anything you need it to do on the flatter runs for sure.
It's definitely a great upgrade to in the early game.
Right. Yeah,
Yep.
for sure. All right. I think we got an agreement there. How about power?
Yeah.
Uh,
Overall power.
I've definitely had some experience. I've my first layout was pretty much run by the Eureka, though I only had the sawmill and the logging camp connected. But I definitely did not have the most perfect track at all. I had hills going everywhere and just it was crazy. But it pulled cars wonderfully.
So what are you thinking? I mean, I
Uh,
could give my
I
my
I mean
version is it's a
it
2
would
when it
probably
comes
be a
to
two.
power.
Yeah,
2.
yeah, yep,
Okay. Unless we have any outstandings, we'll go with the 2. And then that brings us to its final, which is its history. So overall history on the locomotive, I give it, listen, honorable mention because it's not really the history of the model, but this model is pretty close to historically, the thing that I've seen as Eureka. So I give it some bonus when it comes to that. Never really had a lot of problems with Eureka as far as I know, as far as glitches wise, stuff like that. So I guess I'd have to give it a 5 when it comes to history.
yeah. I haven't had an issue with it. It's when you wanted it to work, it worked.
Right.
Same here as well.
All right. So we have a solid model that one has been in the game. We'll say that. All right. That puts us at 10, 16, looks like 22 points for Eureka. All right. I want to send that one down the rail. And she pulls out. And then we will bring Glenbrook up next. It's a good looking locomotive. Tried to get about as accurate as we could. Colors and looks and stack. I don't know. And there we go. All right. That brings us to Glenbrook. So we're going to just jump in there. Looks on Glenbrook. Uh, for me, Glenbrook's probably a 4.
I don't know. I would give it a 5. It's
5?
it's just as pretty as Eureka. It's just got one less pony truck wheel and one more driving wheel. I don't know.
I guess
I
I've
think it
always
looks
looked
pretty.
for a little bit better texture in the tender on
Uh,
Glenbrook.
yeah,
It's always looked a little smooth.
Flat.
Yeah, almost a
yeah,
little flat, I
yeah,
guess, has been the one critique I guess I have with Glenbrook. Other than that, I think it's a great model, but I've always thought that the tender is kind of a little just off. The texture on it, just you get it from a
yeah,
certain angle and it looks like it's almost plastic.
yeah. I
I
guess it's not
guess
as good as the textures on the Eureka.
it's just not quite. And like the wood on the cab is not quite as punchy, and maybe that's because of the color selection. Maybe it's because I don't know, but the textures
Yeah,
just aren't quite as good. You know what I mean? The shiny bits aren't quite as shiny. It's just I don't know. I'm inclined to go with a 4 unless we want to overturn it.
Yeah, I'm about
I'd
the
give it a
same
4.
4. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. We'll go there. How about sound on Glenbrook?
Basic. I would have to
Yeah, I
say, yeah, 3
agree.
for what it is.
Yeah, I'm inclined to totally agree with that. Again, it's that basic generic that kind of gave it to everything that didn't get something unique. Use for Glenbrook. That one I would go with a 4.
Yeah, it can pull pretty well,
It's
and
gonna do
do its
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah, hills and flats. Glenbrook can do it. Not going to do a lot of weight. Definitely not a heck of a lot of cars when you're going up some grades, but it can at least start getting you up hills. You know, you can do the mine runs with this, especially if you're at a decent
Oh yeah,
3%, stuff like that. Glenbrook's going to start getting you there.
Yep.
All right,
yeah.
we will give that one a 4. And then how about cost? What
Yeah,
are
base price 3,100.
3,100, and you get quite a bit more locomotives. So when you compare it to those, 2,000 or $2,500 locos, you definitely get more bang for your buck here. I almost have to give Glenbrook a 5 when it comes to cost.
I agree.
Yeah,
With the customization of certain things, you not
Right.
breaking the bank as well. You're running up
Agreed.
to 3,170 for different stacks in the headlight.
And one does have to say that's one thing we missed when it comes to the look. Glenbrook has, I think, more options for paint and stacks and everything else than I think any other locomotive in the game. Actually, I think Glenbrook has the most optional looks, which
I believe
works in
so as
its
well.
favor too.
5 different paints.
Right. Yeah, isn't it 13?
Oh well,
Like, I think
maybe I'm
paint
wrong.
schemes? Yeah, I think Glenbrook's like 13 or something. A lot of options for Glenbrook, I think. All right. Well, that's
yep. 13.
one, two. It is 13?
Yep.
All right. So that's going to bring us to power on Glenbrook. Kind of goes into its use category, but that's a place where I'd give it a 4. I mean, it's not. It's definitely not heavy haul, but again, going into its cost, its place in the game, as far as its tier and
Yeah.
everything else, I'd have to say it's a 4. I mean,
I mean, it's almost 2,000 more than Eureka.
yeah, it's quite a bit more locomotive there. So Eureka being middle of the road, I think you gotta kind of give Glenbrook a 5 there.
Yeah,
It's just what I
I'm
think.
good with that.
And then how about the history of the locomotive on this one? I can't think of a
I,
thing
no, I don't think I've ever had a problem or bug or anything with Eureka.
with
Or
Eureka,
sorry, Glenbrook.
Glenbrook, sister
I
locomotives.
agree. Yeah, I haven't seen anything in my opinion as well.
All right, so we'll give that one a 5. Give it a clean slate. All right, that's gonna finish Glenbrook. So
Oh,
10, 18, 21. Looks like Glenbrook has a 25, taking the lead from Eureka. All right, we'll slide that one back, and we shall bring up the third and final Tier 2 locomotive. Only 3 of them in this tier, so we have the 10 mile up next, which we'll bring in. Do have to say we did go with unique. Oh, go ahead. Let it sound in. All right. So we did kind of go with some of the unique look on the 10 mile. Obviously, the colors vary on this one, but I've seen this color around on something else. So kind of went with the green. Did obviously do the antlers because it's one of the unique first to it, and well, not historically accurate from what I've heard. The bear trap because it's the only one that gets that smokestack. So that is there. I know people will have that to say. So covering why we picked what we picked there. But so we will head into looks when it comes to 10 mile. Anybody?
I'd say the biggest thing compared to pretty much the other two locos is the wall search valve gear.
Right.
The way that
I
looks when
agree.
it's running is really pretty. It's cool looking.
I gotta give it a solid 5 just because it's the first 40.
Right.
Mason bogey. Mason bogey.
Mason bogey.
Mason
There we
bogey.
go.
I This one I'm conflicted because when it comes to the looks, because I think this is one of the best looking models in the game. I don't particularly care for the color selections that are available on this locomotive. So if I grade it off the model, I give it a 5. If I grade it off the color of the options, I would give it, a 2 or a 3. So I would say 4, but then I'm willing to say 5 because it is a great model.
Yeah.
So what do
I
you
mean,
guys
even
think?
some of the, I think, honestly, I like most of the paint schemes. I think the blue one's a little out there.
See, they're
Um,
just not for everybody, right? That's part of what I
yeah,
realized. Like they are that kind of old-fashioned, old-timey look.
Hmm.
And so
yeah,
while some people really like that, some people probably really don't. I lean towards I wish they had a paint job that wasn't quite so old timey looking, but then it is an old timey locomotive, so it should have that look. So yeah, okay, we'll go with a 5 on that one. I mean, there's not really what would you improve? Not a heck of a lot, right? So okay, I'm willing to go with a 5. That's going to bring us to
yeah.
sound, which I got to be honest. For me, this one scores high on the sound. It's got its own unique,
5. Yeah,
yeah, this one
definitely.
has, right. It's got some uniqueness to it, which is kind of what I think we're looking for in some locomotives. It definitely, when this thing's coming, it's this thing coming, right? It's no other locomotive has that sound, so that's kind of what we're looking
Yeah.
for, I think, there.
And I think this whistle sounds the best um, when you're far away from it, and it's usually when you're the host. But when you're far away and you hear that whistle blowing, it is. I think it's one of the coolest things. Like
Right,
the way it echoes is fantastic.
right. I would agree. It's one of the most unique and cool sounding locos in the game, just as far as its whistle. So with that, yeah, we'll rank it right up there and give it a 5. All right, how about use? Overall use, this being one of our first coal locomotives, which we all know the burn rate on coal is pretty insane, so that makes it pretty useful as far as she sure doesn't burn through fuel. It will handle hills. I'm not exactly sure what the tractive effort is, but I think it's somewhere around
Uh-huh.
7,000, isn't it?
Eight
Eight eight
Eight
thousand.
thousand
thousand.
four hundred and seventy.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
That's
up
actually
there as far as tier two, probably the highest in tier two, actually.
yes.
So the most
Yeah.
tractive effort, definitely the most fuel efficient. I've heard some people complain about the water, that it burns water really fast. I've never really run into that myself, but I have heard people talk about that.
I've
But
I've I've
use
done it a
wise,
couple times.
I guess I'd give it a 4. I mean, it's
You
up
know, that
there.
seems very fair. Yeah.
It's up there. It's not going to do your heaviest loads, but it's going to do your average get her done kind of stuff.
Agree.
All right.
Yeah.
Sounds good. How about cost? Where are we at?
Yeah. So base price is 3,400.
So does that make this one the most pricey tier 2 locomotive? I'm guessing.
Yes. I
Yes, it
think
It's
is.
gotta
so.
be. So, I mean, not that I don't think it's worth the amount of money, but I guess cost wise, being it's the most expensive at its tier, I'd have to give it a 3. It's not like it's overpriced, but it's definitely not a good deal. It's not like one of the good deal locomotives that are just cheap,
Yeah.
I guess. Like, I wouldn't throw it in there for just an extra booster to do it.
I'm pretty sure that uh I don't know, Class 48 might be a slightly better deal. Just I think they're
Yeah,
around the same
yeah, I
price.
think they're really close to the same price, but then you end up with more tractive effort. Now, again, that's up a
Yep.
tier, so you get into. But I
It's
think
not.
when you
Yeah.
start talking about this locomotive, yeah, you got to take that kind of thing into account, right? There are other deals out there that may
Yeah.
make this not your best choice. Though that being said, a person can pick this up at tier 2 and probably run it, virtually for the
Oh
end of the
yeah.
game. You know what I mean?
They
So
could run it very far. Yeah,
it,
very
it
far into the game.
it's hard to say that it's not worth picking one up either.
It's cool. It's unique and it definitely does what it needs to. And
Right.
it does it pretty well too. I mean, and it's also a little faster. It's one of the locos that has the higher speed cap,
That's
which is
true too.
cool.
That's true. There's Glenbrook's right up there too. This tier, in fact, are some of the faster locomotives. You know what I mean? I mean, Glenbrook
Yeah.
at one point was like a complete whip. But they used to
It was
rip
a speed
everything off
demon.
the rail, right? All right.
Yeah.
How about power for the 10 mile? We're
Yeah,
Eight
in
you
the
got it.
8,000 is
8,000.
pretty good.
So
It's the best
right,
out of the.
highest in its class.
Hmm.
That's for sure. So I guess we'd have to give it a 4. Could even almost
Yeah.
give it a 5, but it's not like this thing's not a work mule. Let's be honest. I mean, if you're hooking it up to
Yeah.
hopper cars, right, big hoppers, how many you pulling up a 3% grade with this thing?
Oh, not many.
So, right. So we got a 4, I think, about as far as we could stretch that.
Yeah.
All right, and then here's one that could probably hurt this one is the history of the locomotive as far as reliability factor. Uh,
It's
I
been a
guess,
little bit questionable.
yeah, I mean, I guess as far as, if I'm being honest, I got to give this one a 2. As far as reliability, it's definitely below average. It's had maybe the most problems, or it's right
I
up
wouldn't
there.
give it a Yeah, I wouldn't give it a 1, but definitely a
Right,
2 just
right.
because for a while I just couldn't use it. You get in there and then it's like why would I keep using it if I'm going to have to re-rail it every
It,
time I want to
right,
use it?
because you were jumping off the rails, or some people have the
Yeah.
glitch where it seems to suck water down faster than almost you can put it in it. And I don't know if that's a glitch, but like I've heard that complaint from multiple players about, it just seems like the locomotive has a hole in it or something when it comes to water compared
Yeah.
to the rest. Now, don't get me wrong, because I'm all for we need more water consumption. But where people are
Yeah.
talking about, you go from stop to stop and all of a sudden you have to fill it, that seems like it's a problem. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, our stops aren't that far apart. All right, so that finishes
So
up our score.
yeah, I personally give it a 2 pre-patch, but I would give it a 3 now after the patch because they did fix
Yeah.
some of the performance issues on it
That's
after
true.
the patch. Yeah,
It's
so
I would yeah.
it's kind of been saved. But
Honorable
I
mention to the
pre-patch.
fact that it is running
Yeah.
better now. Yeah, for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a hunk of junk anymore or a problem anymore. I haven't had any problems with it at all lately. So that being said, it seems like they have fixed that kind of stuff. All right. Well, that puts 10 Mile at 23. So our overall rankings for Tier 2 locomotives are the Eureka in third place with 22 points. A very close second place at 23 points was the 10 Mile. And for us, at any rate, the Glenbrook is the clear winner at 25 points. Though I do have to say
Nice.
that was much tighter than Tier 1. I think there was a much bigger gap in the Tier 1 locomotives. Tier
They
2,
were.
definitely much closer. And to be honest, I don't think you could go wrong with any one of these 3 locomotives early on in the game. I think any one of them could do you a lot of good. You know,
Yeah.
if you're willing to spend a little more money, you have the 10 Mile, probably get a little more long term use out of it. Or you got Eureka, which is always going to have a use, just maybe not the most use. And it's a heck
Yeah.
of a
And
lot cheaper.
they're all good looking locos.
Right,
They're all unique and good looking in their own way.
right. And then Glenbrook, I think you get an overall workhorse in there with Glenbrook that's
Oh
just
yeah.
going to, you know, there's always something you can find for Glenbrook to do. I mean, the one thing I've always said with Glenbrook is it's kind of the loco you wanted Eureka to be, but it's not quite because Eureka just doesn't like hills. Where
Yeah.
Glenbrook tackles those hills a little bit better. And as far as long-term use, I don't think the 10 miles pretty hard to beat, right? And it's really
Yeah.
efficient to use. So I think we're gonna call that one our Tier 2 rank, review, and roundup. So say thanks, guys, for helping out. I think the video went great. Yeah, go
Sweet.
ahead. Hit some bells and whistles if you feel like it on the way out. But we're going to call that one a win. Say thanks for tuning in. Remember, if you get a chance, like, share, subscribe. Subscriptions are free, but they sure do help the channel. Y'all have a great day.